And this is exactly what's happening again, is a new business model, a new technology is coming in and saying for the next 10 years or 20 years, however long it's going to last, this is going to be the new way to distribute content and to get paid on the internet. So blockchain technology just makes it easier and more automated to actually get paid when your content is going to be used, because the whole transaction, all the transactions that are recorded on the ledger, maintain the transparency on all those activities. So if your song is purchased, if that person that purchased it turns around and sells it to somebody else, you can still earn a secondary market royalty.
All right, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us this week on another episode of the Vana Room. This week we have a Web3 NFT, all things Web3 expert with us. So I'm not going to do much introduction because I don't know a whole lot about it. So I'll pass it over to Bruno, our guest, to give the introduction, because I'm sure he would be able to do it much better than I would. So Bruno, first of all, thank you for being on the show and taking the time.
Thank you for
I know
having
you're
me.
way ahead. Yeah, of course. So give us a brief introduction of who Bruno is, and then we'll get started from there.
Sounds good. So my name is Bruno Guez. I'm the founder and CEO of Revelator. And even before Web3, I ran a record label for almost 3 decades, originally based in Los Angeles. And I worked a lot with artists across the 90s and early 2000s. Did a lot of synchronization licensing and digital distribution. I was pretty early to digital. I've had a deal with Apple since 2003. Wow. So I've been at this already 20 years and kind of experienced all the pain points around digital, managing metadata, managing distribution, reporting, royalties. So even before Web3, I've been running a record label as a producer, as a label owner, working with artists, working on developing artists. And I moved to Israel about 12 years ago, and I started developing a software platform for managing a record label so that it would be easy to manage your catalog and your rights and your supply chain and your finance, your income tracking, your reporting, your royalties, your analytics, all the payments that goes to the artists you work with. Today, that platform is being used by over 125 distributors and labels around the world. Companies like CD Baby, use our technology to power the Sounddrop platform. Perhaps you've heard of that. And looks like we lost.
We lose Lennon.
It looks like it, yeah.
It's still recording, so hang on.
All right, so I'll continue. And obviously, at the root of everything we do, is we focus around music and rights and payments. The Web3 for me is an interesting new development in the music business model and distribution model and monetization model.
Let me ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. So, as you just stated, you've been at this for a long time. Where did your interest or your knowledge in this, because this is not the easiest thing to understand for most people. So did you already have some sort of interest in this area, or what, how did you know about this?
So I've been interested in technology for a long time, as far as I can remember back, going to 20, 25 years. And in about 2004, 2005, I realized I needed, tooling to manage all the catalog and all the songs and all the metadata and all the publishers and the writers and the producers and all that information. So I started really investing in technology to kind of manage, build a system that could actually manage all that data. Mm-hmm. I've already been very techie oriented, trying to really pay attention to how would I be able to scale my business in a digital context. When I moved to Israel, I was pretty early to crypto, as early as 2014, 15, the rise of Ethereum. I was really interested in looking at how would we use blockchain technology to improve the rights and the royalty payments within the music industry. So I've been at this, almost 8 years now, trying to find ways to create simpler, payment rails for music creators.
Okay. So, in your opinion, because I'm trying to like do this in small bits for people, especially the newbies, because some of our audience are independent record labels or people who are thinking about starting a record label. So, in your opinion, why is Web3 and NFTs necessary for this new group of music professionals? Why should they even be? Why should they care?
So, we started with analog. We started with vinyl and cassettes and CDs, and then we went to digital, and we went to MP3 and digital downloads, and then we went from downloads to streaming. All those, business models have shifted over the last 20, 30 years, right?
Hmm.
And this is exactly what's happening again. Is a new business model, a new technology is coming in and saying for the next 10 years or 20 years, however long it's going to last, this is going to be the new way to distribute content and to
Hmm.
get paid on the internet. So blockchain technology just makes it easier and more automated to actually get paid when your content is going to be used, because the whole transaction, all the transactions that are recorded on the ledger, maintain the transparency on all those activities. So if your song is purchased, if that person that purchased it turns around and sells it to somebody else, you can still earn a secondary market royalty. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of new interesting ways where you as a rights holder, as a creator, can sell directly to your audience, to your fans, without Google and Apple and Microsoft and Facebook in the middle. And if Monique sells her work to somebody else and I purchase it, you'll get your primary royalty. And then if somebody else comes along and buys it from me, you'll still get a secondary market royalty for that second sale. And if you remember, like when you went to a vinyl shop and you bought some used vinyl, the artist didn't see a penny on that secondary market
Right.
transaction from the vinyl shop. So you got to think that this is a new way where you can distribute content and monetize content directly to your fans, to your collectors, to your audience, but you're always going to be guaranteed that you're going to collect money as the content keeps trading and moving hands, which I think is
I
really
think
fascinating.
Yeah, I like it. So even though I'm not super well versed when it comes to blockchain, I understand what blockchain is and how it works. And I honestly, in my opinion, not to digress too much, but I think the PROs need to look into utilizing blockchain tech. Anybody who's paying anybody anything should look into utilizing blockchain technology to make their. That's my opinion. But here is where I get, because I've read some articles where you talk about how this is beneficial for the fans as well. And one article in particular, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the magazine correctly. It's Bean Bean Crypto.
In crypto,
Um,
yeah.
okay, it was an article called "Music Revolution: How Web3 is Utterly Changing Fan Power." And in that article, three things are mentioned as far as what it allows for the fans. And one was financial participation, one was access, and then the last one was verified derivative works in an efficient market. The, this is the part that I question, the fan participation, because I think this is a very specific demographic that we're talking about, because there's a lot of people who just want to, we're perfectly happy now that we figured out streaming. Just let me log onto my computer and stream. Now you want me, and I'm speaking, as a group of fans, now you want me to learn this whole new technology and participate in this other technology, which we're going to have to teach the fans, a lot of them. And then the the financial participation. When you say financial participation, are you talking about investing in the artist, or are you talking about the fans making money themselves?
A bit of both. I mean, there's a lot of new business models that are possible. If you think that as a label, when I discovered an artist, I invested in the artist and I benefited from that investment in a profit sharing deal with the artist, right? But the fans didn't have that ability to participate in a profit sharing deal if they discovered that artist. So I was an influencer, I was a tastemaker, I discovered music before others. And if I could apply my taste making and discover new artists, I would invest in them. And not as a label, but as a fan. I would love that
Sure.
opportunity. And I think that is coming. There are platforms like Republic, like Royalty Bank in Japan, Music Cow in Korea, 12 by 12 in Germany. And they are NFT platforms, they're royalties platforms where people can participate and purchase the rights to income stream. So if I wanted to buy, 1% of the Weeknd's song that I love so much, I could do that. And I could be guaranteed an income stream from my investments. That's definitely one way. But there's other ways, artists need crowdfunding. They need to finance their tour and their, recording. So that's one way that fans can participate in enabling the artists they care about and they support in raising money to go out and record and tour. That's another way they can participate. And in exchange for that investment, they would get some form of participation. I mean, it goes a lot deeper than that. You can think around, artists as decentralized autonomous organizations where the fans basically participate in this community where they invest in this artist community and they get, first dibs on the new release, on the new video, on the concert tickets. So there's many ways that fans can be rewarded for participating in this community. You can call it a Web3 community. And I do think, what we did with Web2 the last 10, 20 years, with Facebook and Instagram and all that moves to favor the artist directly because you don't have Facebook and Instagram in the middle anymore. So it's you and your fans and you and your audience directly.
In your own space.
Yeah. And that's basically wallet to wallet. It's basically, you can't have Web3 without wallet. And you can't have metaverse without Web3. So the medium of exchange is through tokens, and tokens are assets that are managed inside a wallet. So if I have this artist token, then I can, log into the website, connect my wallet, and get access to the live stream or the concert or the exclusive content that was shared with me, right? If you think about how do fans make money, in Korea, there's a company called SM Entertainment, and they're already thinking around, create to earn model where the fans use stems to create new works from almost like a remix, from the parts of the song. So a new fan will create a new master recording from the existing parts. So the artist will continue to earn money on their royalties because it was their original recording, but the fan is also a participant in the new recording. And that's a way that fans can participate in making money because maybe I did a really cool remix of that artist I love and I distribute it and it's monetized and I get paid my share and the artist gets paid their share as well. So you got to think that, blockchain technology will create new types of business models that create new monetization opportunities for artists as well as the community.
So I'm going to let Lennon ask a question if he wants to.
Have I convinced you or not?
Meh. No, I mean, honestly, like I have a lot running through my mind because in my heart, especially when I'm talking with new artists, I'm always pushing revenue streams. You got to figure out what your you can't rely on streams, so what are your other revenue streams? But I think there's a lot of education that has to happen for the fans to buy into this. There's a younger generation that I think is 100% okay with trying and have already bought into it. but I think there's a large populace that is still kind of iffy about it, especially when you start saying tokens and NFTs and a wallet. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the negativity that's in the media right now with some of the crypto manage the companies, I think a lot of people are very hesitant to even bother with that space.
But I
So
believe
I
all
just
that
think a lot of education has to
yeah,
happen.
I believe all the technology will take a backseat. We'll get beyond this initial phase of new technology terminology that no one understands. And just like, you don't need to understand what database Facebook is using. The same way we don't need to be talking about blockchain in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a PayPal account probably, so you know what a wallet is. You have a Venmo or Revolut, a Zelle. We know how to send payments. Same thing. It's no different.
Mm-hmm. Lennon.
Okay. Yeah. So that kind of goes back to, why would the fans, like, other than, getting access to a live stream, why would a fan want to come on to the Web3? Like, what are some, in your experience, what are some of the things that kind of turn that, like, oh, yeah, I need to be in Web3 right now?
The same way
That's what's getting me.
the same reason they came onto Web 2. People want to have a profile online. People want to be recognized. People want to chat and connect for the same reasons, right? Web3 is just the new internet. It's the next evolution of the internet where there is more direct participation, between and value exchange between people without the gatekeepers like the tech companies in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other companies that are going on other than artists? Like, if I'm going to join Web3, is it just only music people right now, or are there other industries that I can support?
There are other industries. There's movies. There's you can use wallets and as a medium of exchange for many different types of assets.
So you had mentioned about fans creating remixes of the artist's work. And I feel like a lot of the newer artists are more open to sharing that space with some of their fans. So I'm obviously bringing this question from kind of an old school control of intellectual property space. So and so maybe this is where you might bring in smart contracts. I don't know. So if you open up that space for the fan to create a remix, what does that do for, because I in my mind I start seeing, if I've got like 1,000 fans and everybody's remixing my stuff, I'm still going to get my royalty from the songwriting because it's my original song. And if it's a remix, I'll get, a portion of the master as well. But now I'm just thinking there's like so many versions out there. What if I don't like it? It's just muddying up the space. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I may start to get lost in the sauce, so to speak, because now there's so much of my content out there from one piece of work. Am I not, am I misthinking? Like, is my thought process not right here?
It's a very logical way to think because artists usually like to control their work and approve what gets out and what doesn't. And that's just the old way of doing things. Correct. The when we look at TikTok, when we look at new types of viral content online, it's people reinterpreting other songs and adding their own touch to it. So the power of the community is by far much greater than what you can do by yourself as an artist. And if you think that you can share, with the community, your content, your song, and let them and see what they're going to do with it, and then something's going to go viral because someone added their own dance to it or their own vocal to it, or and kind of created a new derivative work that just blew up. Maybe you would have never had that chance if you had kept it only to, your radio campaign and your streaming campaign. And how do you go from 0 streams to 10 million streams to 10 billion streams, right? By yourself, it would be very difficult. But I believe that the community, plays a big part in meritocracy. If they like your song and they do their own thing to it, and other people like it, and then it just spreads like wildfire. And I think we're seeing that model on TikTok, on Resso, on other apps, and that's going to continue to be a dominant theme for the next 5 to 10 years, where the power of the community is almost greater as a sum of its parts than the original work itself.
So how do the smart contracts work in this space? Can you talk about the smart contracts? Because um, I have a couple more questions about that too, but I want to hear if you can educate us from your experience about the smart contracts dealing with these elements.
Sure. So first, it's important to understand that a blockchain is basically a ledger of transactions. You just record transactions into a public ledger, so everything is transparent. You can see when a transaction happened, when you got paid, when someone transferred rights, etc. All those transactions are recorded on a ledger, almost like a spreadsheet, like an Excel document. Right. Every time there's a transaction, there's another entry in the Excel. Just everybody can see it, so it's transparent, right? That's the easiest way I can explain it. The
Sure.
smart contract is an application that runs on a blockchain. So basically, it's a piece of code that has it's very simple actually. It basically has your wallet address and my wallet address and a percentage next to it. So in this application, if you and I did a song together and we have 50-50, you would have your wallet, my wallet, and the 50-50 split. So, if somebody listens to my song and or purchases my NFT or sends money to that song, the smart contract just executes the rules. And the rule is to spend or to pay you 50% and me 50%. So it's actually really dumb. It's actually not that smart. It's not. It's really simple. It's just saying these are the rules. When money comes in, split the money this way.
Is there a way to adjust those splits with each person who decides to use it? So
Sure.
I might want to split 50 with you, but I may only want to, if Lennon uses it, I may only want to give Lennon 25.
Absolutely.
So am I able to go in and adjust it per person?
You basically transfer shares to him, or you
This is so
transfer.
cool. Now I'm interested.
Yeah. This is the cool stuff. This is what I'm
Think about
interested in.
it as programmable IP, right? You could
Okay.
program the way you want your rights to work for you.
And is this, when you say program, that thing, okay, software developer, do you need a software developer to do this stuff, or is this?
No. I mean, you can just use an application and say, I want to send you 2% of the song.
That's really cool. And then it goes right into your wallet. And then from when you go to your wallet, what type of, when you're sending money, or like when somebody streams or purchases your song, what money is being sent to your wallet? Is it some kind of token? Is it Bitcoin? Is it what cryptocurrency is it?
Sure. I mean, what we're doing basically are paying in stable coins so that, a dollar of royalties is a dollar in tokens. We use a USDC. So it's basically a coin that is always equivalent to the dollar value. So if I receive $1,000 of Spotify royalties, I'm going to get 1,000 USDC coins. And then I can just cash out and send the money to my bank account in regular USD.
So are people going to be receiving 1099s in this space?
Good question. The answer is yes, basically because the distributor will still issue the 1099, or the label who paid you will still issue the 1099. You got to think of it, as just a payment method, the same way I can receive money through PayPal or to my bank.
Hmm. And I know we're talking about a decentralized space, so maybe my next question may sound stupid, but I'm really curious how. So we talk about the fan participating financially, um, almost like an investment, right? Like back, I forgot what the year was when Bowie bonds were out, right? So fans could buy a Bowie bond, and that gave opportunity to take that money and do what the artist needed to do, tour, buy stuff, whatever. So in this space in Web3, is there any I don't know how to say it because I understand what decentralized means, but my concern is like SEC type of need where anybody could potentially get into the Web3 space and call themselves an artist and just start ripping people off, putting out I hate to say garbage content, but you know what I mean? Like just completely create a scam. So
Yeah, it's a good question.
how I mean, what kind of light can you shed on that? Am I thinking too hard about this?
I mean,
I do that.
scammers, fraudsters are always going to gamify every business they can. They do that today on YouTube and on streaming platforms. You have artificial streaming and streaming farms trying to basically pump up your streams, while no one's actually listening, right? So you're going to have scams no matter what technologies or what business models. So people are always going to look for ways to gamify the system. But yes, people can, sell tokens, and they can do that illegally, and they're going to get eventually into trouble with the SEC. What we're doing, since we're a distributor and we're an analytics and reporting and royalties platform, we're a business that pays artists. So we're working with different regulated marketplaces that are security compliant so that when we help them list their assets or their song or their shares of their IP into the marketplace, it's done through a marketplace that's allowed to sell securities.
Mm. So, as somebody who's newer to the space, how would you be able to seek out legit ones and sense a scam? Like, what are kind of some of the differences?
Anyone that offers you anything for free or tries to kind of say you're going to make a bunch of money, I would always be wary of that. you
Okay.
know, and if you want, if you know the artist, if you love their music, and you just got to look at, what's being offered and consider it in a way that, that is reasonable.
Yeah.
If the artist is in another country, is the currency their currency? Like you mentioned USDC, but is that automatic even if I'm dealing with somebody in another country?
So different blockchains have different coins, what we call native coins, right? If someone, mints an asset on Ethereum, then that asset will probably transact in ETH, which is the currency of Ethereum. If someone mints on Polygon, then that, token is called Matic, MATIC. So it really depends on which blockchain that asset lives.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And how does the invoicing happen? So you said the blockchain is keeping track of is being transparent with all the transactions. So if you're using Ethereum and Lennon is using somebody else, what kind of document am I getting so I can see what I'm supposed to be getting paid? Or am I getting a bunch of different documents, or is it all coming on one and like one invoice?
So there's no invoicing, there's no paper trail, but all the transactions are recorded. So you could just enter the song, if you wish, has an identifier, right? That token ID. You can enter that smart contract address into almost like a Google search engine, and then see all the transactions around that are happening around that asset. So you can see all the transactions literally as they are happening in real time.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Another thing that comes to mind too is a lot of things is data privacy and companies taking your data, and like a lot of this is removing the middlemen like Google, Spotify, Apple, all these big companies that hoard your data and then sell it. So is Web3 secure? Is it safe?
Good
So
question.
data is transparent when it's recorded on a ledger, but
Sure.
there are more and more, privacy focused blockchain projects, which I think are really interesting for the next, for the future of this technology. Ultimately, Taylor Swift is not going to want people to know how much she got paid because the
Mhm.
transaction is recorded on the blockchain. And there are ways that you can maintain privacy while still promoting transparency. So that is definitely.
Okay. Interesting.
Can I ask so I'd like to kind of shift gear just a little bit and talk about Relevator because there I work with a lot of new artists and they are looking for other ways to make money. But so I did get on your website, and it looks easy, almost too easy. You know, if they said if if it looks too good to be true, it is. After looking through your site, it makes it seem like it's a really easy process. If I'm a new artist and I want to kind of try this out, what what is my experience with Relevator? In other words, engaging with, because I saw there were options for somebody new just starting. Where do I start? How do I make this happen?
Sure. So Revelator is, primarily built as a B2B business. So we help, labels and
Oh,
artist managers.
okay.
It's not that we don't work with artists directly, because we do, but generally, they'll distribute music, they'll collect royalties, so we can power all of those flows. It's been 10 years since we've been building this platform. So, we've gotten good at making it easy over 10 years, because it's not easy. That's for sure. Managing rights, managing payments, managing splits, managing analytics and data. It's all pretty complex stuff. But I like to think that we've made it, a lot easier for our customers.
What genres are you seeing take advantage of this more than others?
It's actually pretty crazy. English is still the primary language, both for visitors on the website as well as people who release music. But we have Indonesian as the number two, and Spanish and Chinese and Arabic, and we've got a ton of creators and artists and labels that release music around the world. So Latin American music is very big as well. So I guess we can say we're big in Japan in that sense. We've got content creators from all around the world.
Do you feel like the US is behind? Do you feel like the United States music industry market is behind
No,
on jumping in this space?
no, not at all. I think if anything, the rest of the world is catching up. But I don't
Mm,
think America is behind.
mm-hmm,
China is going to become the biggest market in the world probably this year. You
mm-hmm,
know, so
I heard
Chinese
that too.
content and Indonesia and Vietnam and India, those are huge markets.
mm-hmm. Even with so much what's the word I'm looking for?
Censorship.
Censorship. Thank you. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Yes, even with so much censorship, um, they're still on track to be the largest as far
Yeah,
as this is concerned. Hmm,
absolutely.
that's
I
crazy.
mean, we're dealing with just a different scale of audiences and
Hmm,
populations.
hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. has got what, 300 million people. You
Yeah,
know,
about
I
that,
don't know. I
315.
don't know the latest numbers on how many people are in China, but it's in the
Hmm.
I
billions.
I think it was like 1.3 or 4 billion people,
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's 4 or 5 times the size of the United States.
exactly.
Hmm. Makes sense. Do I need to be a registered entity in the US or whatever country I'm in to use Relevator or get into this space? Do I have to be registered as a legal entity first?
No, I mean, you could be a small label, that's operating as a sole proprietorship. You can be a company with 1,000 people working there, or you can be a mom and pop operation trying to get your label off the ground.
Hmm. And when you say business intelligence, what does that mean?
So, we collect a lot of data from the streaming platforms every day, because we have direct relationships and deals, contracts with the Spotify and Apple and Amazon. So, the consumption data arrives nightly, every night. So every day we can tell you exactly, how much money is going to come to you in 60 days when Spotify and Apple will pay the end of the year or the end of the month royalties. So what we do with that data is actually really interesting. You can use it for forecasting future receivables, future royalties. You can use that data to you know analyze the data and think of it as a predictions on what's likely to happen, what's going to be your biggest market, what's your biggest song, which is the biggest segment of the audience that's listening to it, what are the biggest days of the week when people are listening to your music, or times of the day. We can kind of look at all that. So business intelligence is really around analyzing the data and really helping you understand the insights behind the data.
Okay. I need to digress real quick. I forgot to ask this question. The payouts through blockchain, are they immediate? Like, you know how normally payments are quarterly? So with blockchain, am I just getting paid as the transaction happens, or are the payments still happening quarterly?
Monthly, actually. So we're
Oh,
paying monthly
okay.
on the royalties. But then, like I was just saying, if we have data every day, you can see how much money you're earning every day, and you can actually ask for an advance every day
Mm,
against the money that's coming to you in 60 days. So you can get paid every day
that's
if that's
that's
what you
cool.
want. If you got 300
Mhm.
bucks coming every day and you want to cash out, you can basically request that advance, and that becomes a contract on the blockchain that says, Monique took out $300, and that's going to be recouped against her royalties.
Is
And
there a
300.
fee?
Of course, we got to make money, right? Yeah, and we take 2%. We basically take
Okay.
2%.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you
And
think
Sorry,
about
go
it,
ahead.
if you've got $100 coming next month and I can give you $98 today, you'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
that's
Mm.
true. So Revelator is the one that's paying out that advance, correct, from your own
Correct.
money?
But we
Okay.
built the platform for distributors to do that. So if other distributors are using us, then they can pay their artists directly as well.
Wow, that's really cool. So have you seen artists use the data from Revelator to use that to get into a record label deal or a publishing deal, or does that data transfer?
Sure, or also to be able to sell their catalog, or
Ah,
we've had one deal recently where somebody got a $400,000 advance, like an offer for 400 grand to sell
wow,
51% of their song to them. So
wow,
data is really important. It helps you understand the value of your work.
wow. That's really cool.
Mhm.
That's really cool to be able to do that. It seems like Web3 is very it's going for transparency. There's no middlemen, quicker, more efficient. It just seems like it's removing all of the headaches that Web 2 and Web 1 have kind of carried up to one another. And now Web 3 is taking a really bold stance and being like, no more of this crap. This isn't working. It's just not working for artists.
Yeah, I
It's
definitely
putting
think
the power in the hands of the creator.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely.
especially if you can, learn to build an audience and control, the relationship to that audience directly without other platforms getting in the way. You're likely to be able to sustain your career a lot easier if you can engage your fans directly.
Mhm. Are there platforms when you talk about building community? I did an article a few last year, I think, on how Discord is really filtering and funneling in artist careers. Are there platforms like Discord to build communities on the Web3 in the Web3 space?
Telegram, I think, is going to become the biggest platform. Today it's a
Telegram.
peer-to-peer, social messaging,
Mm.
platform, social network, and messaging app. But I think it's going to become the future of content distribution. It's got a built-in wallet. You can, use it to
Wow.
purchase and to send money through a messaging app. I think you'll see WhatsApp and other apps become also payment platforms.
Telegram. So you said Telegram?
Absolutely. I think Telegram will
Okay.
take over Discord in terms of popularity this year.
Wow, that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. It's the first
Yeah,
time
I
I've heard
haven't
that.
heard of that one.
I haven't heard. I use Telegram, but I much prefer Discord because it's much more functional. But that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. Well, if you say WhatsApp and all these are going to transition, are they going to come into Web3? Because aren't they kind of unwelcomed guests because we're trying to get away from them?
I think messaging apps are definitely going to become payment platforms. So,
Okay.
money as a message. I send you a text and there's money attached to it, or I need to pay
Okay.
you something and I just send it to you through a text. Those kind of
Okay.
things. Um, I don't know that WhatsApp will become a wallet in that sense. It might become, perhaps. Will it become Web3? I can't tell you. Instagram is already becoming and embracing Web3. You can already
Mhm.
create NFTs on Instagram and on Facebook. So I think all those platforms will engage and embrace the new types of content distribution through digital assets.
Okay. Well, if anybody wants to try doing money as a message, I'll give you my number.
If you're an artist, you're going to be really happy when your fans send you money.
That's true. That's true. If I can wake up with $300 every day in my wallet,
Exactly.
that's great. Do you find one more question, Mo?
No, go ahead.
Do you find that artists or their fans are spending more money in Web3 than they are in Web2, like through streaming and tickets and touring and all that?
I mean, if you think about it, if you're spending $9.99 a month, on Spotify, some people also have other like Apple Music as well. I mean, you're spending basically $120 a year. When you bought a CD, I mean, I remember back in the days, people said, okay, I bought 3 or 4 CDs a year. So you spent what, 40, 50, $60. So today they're spending twice that amount in streaming, right? At $10 a month, right? So are they yet spending that amount of money on Web3? The core, collectors and fans that are participating in Web3 are definitely spending more money than $120 a year. If you collect an NFT and you buy it for $200, then it grows up in value, and now it's worth $800. You start to get into the habit of buying into, digital assets and be able to support the artist you want and be able to collect these assets because you're going to be an early collector, an early adopter of those artists, and if they succeed, you will succeed as well. You know.
You know what? Lennon brought up something that made me think of a really good question. So, you know how Taylor Swift was selling tickets and then it just broke down Ticketmaster's system. So now this whole conversation brings me to the question, instead, if I'm an artist and I want to sell tickets to a show, can I use this to bypass Ticketmaster? Like, can this system sustain that kind of traffic?
It's a very good question. And there are blockchains that are more scalable than Ethereum. So if you issue tickets on Polygon and you mint them as NFTs, and each person has to buy, the NFT, which is basically your digital certificate of the ticket. So, and if you need to do 10,000 or 100,000, you can do that.
Why aren't we doing it?
Good question, but I do believe there's a great use case for ticketing with NFTs.
I mean, that sounds like a no-brainer to me. That is the fix right there. I mean, unless I'm missing something, who needs now? Oh, okay. So I guess now that I'm saying it, I guess the workaround or the challenge is getting the venues, because they make money. Do they not? They make money through Ticketmaster, because Ticketmaster and Live Nation. So that means your show is going to have to be at a non-Live Nation venue for you to utilize the NFT to sell your ticket.
I do believe that Live Nation and Ticketmaster will be adopters. They've already invested in blockchain companies for ticketing. They're not
They
going to let
have
that
to.
pass them by.
They have to,
They have to.
especially after that Taylor Swift fiasco. How could you not? You know? This is so, gosh, okay. Now I'm like, all right, I kind of like this a little bit.
Yeah.
My only concern goes back to what Lennon brought up, which was the security issue. I might set up a separate bank account just in case, so nobody's getting to the money that I'm paying my bills with. You know what I mean? That would be, I mean, honestly, since we've been talking, that's the only concern that has popped into my head, was I don't want anybody getting to my money.
So then you better
Other than
take
that,
good care of securing your wallet and no one will get to it. Because
well,
the
how do I
money is in
secure
your
my
wallet.
wallet?
The money's in your digital wallet. It's in your phone. It's in your hand.
Yeah. Well, so I guess then just transfer it out every so
Yeah.
often. Then
You
is
just
really
cash it
the
out whenever
answer.
you need.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You have sold me, Bruno. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to sit down with my artists and have this conversation. I but he's a country artist, so I'm curious if the country music fans are in this space, or how do we convince them to get into this space? Because I don't know. I like the challenge. I like the challenge.
If they get rewarded for participating, if they have incentives, then yes.
It'll be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this. I'm feeling a new homework assignment for my students coming out of this. Bruno, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. I love having these conversations.
In closing, I do too, because they really spark, because this is not my area of expertise at all, and I have been wrestling so much with the whole NFT thing. I'm still not a fan of the NFTs, but you got me on Web3 as far as, all the blockchain and the other options available in that space. NFTs, I'm still iffy on, but you sold me on everything else. And I think this is worthy of a conversation to have, not just with my students, but the artists that I'm consulting with too. So yeah, my brain is thinking differently now, and I don't feel like such an old lady anymore.
So on part 2, we'll do a deeper dive into NFTs, and we can go into the different use cases.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I'll take notes.
That's one thing I think a lot of people are experiencing too, is they think Web3 equals NFT, but Web3 is so much more than NFTs. NFT is a very, 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 very small sliver of what Web3 is. And I think that's the thing, is NFTs and Web3 have become super, super synonymous, when in reality, Web3 is the umbrella term for NFTs, DAOs, and all those types of things.
Yeah, NFT is just one type of smart contract within the context of blockchains and Web3.
And that's what we need to break apart, is those terms.
Yeah. So Bruno, before we let you go, and I don't know that we mentioned, well, you did mention you were in Israel, but I just want to reiterate that Bruno is joining us from Israel, which I think is super cool. And I love technology for this reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
But is there anything we didn't touch on that you think is important to acknowledge in this space? I mean, I definitely want to do a follow-up with you, but for this conversation that we had here, we asked you a lot of questions, but is there anything that you think anything you would like to add, or anything you think we should have addressed?
I just think it's really hard to be an artist today. I think a lot of it is around building your audience and building your community. So we didn't talk about community a lot, the community building. And perhaps in our next discussion, we can talk about how Web3 can be useful for community building.
Yes, 100%.
And then I think community building goes hand in hand with NFTs as well. You can use NFTs for community building.
There's definitely part of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm based on what some of the graphs and images that I saw on your website, I think it's also important for a lot of these artists to really get a good grasp on the demographics and the psychographics of your audience, because without it, this whole conversation is lost, especially when we move to talking about the community and NFT, because your community is your demographic and you have to know who that is.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited about that conversation, because that is one that I think I struggle trying to get the students to really pay attention to their analytics and the different platforms. And so I'm hoping Web3 can be way easier for these new artists to see who is actually their audience, so they can take advantage of Web3 and creating NFTs for that purpose.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's dinner time over there. You're probably smelling your food from the kitchen. So I think I hear your stomach grumbling. So we are going to we are going to call it a wraps, but thank you so much for joining us on the
Yes.
Vana Room. I can't wait for everyone
Thank
to
you so
hear
much.
this episode. So Bruno, thank you
As
so much.
well.
I
Thank
look
you
forward to
as
part
well.
2.